Ethan Carter was 38 years old, a software engineer who had spent over a decade quietly building a successful tech consulting firm from his small apartment in Charlotte. Every morning, he followed the same routine with disciplined precision: a black coffee from his favorite local cafe, a brisk walk through the tree-lined streets, and meticulous review of client emails in his home office that overlooked a modest garden adorned with blooming marigolds and carefully pruned shrubs. His life was quiet but fulfilling, filled with the satisfaction of work done well and evenings spent cooking healthy meals while classical music played softly in the background, filling the space with a gentle rhythm. On this particular Thursday, as the sun slanted through the kitchen windows, the warm light reflecting off the polished marble countertops and the soft hum of the refrigerator underscored the tranquility of his morning, everything felt normal. Then he noticed it. On the countertop, amidst the neatly stacked bills and mail, lay an envelope embossed with gold lettering, a handwriting he instantly recognized as deliberate, cold, and calculating. Something felt wrong. Ethan paused mid-step, his mind cataloging the sudden tension in the air, the faint scent of Monique's new perfume lingering as if it had been sprayed minutes ago, mingling with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. He slid the envelope closer, hands steady, and read the words that made his chest tighten: "Ethan, I can't keep pretending anymore. It's over. Pack your things." Then he saw it. The subtle smirk in the photograph tucked inside the letter, the unmistakable gleam of a black SUV idling at the curb in the reflection of the window, luxury cues that hinted at her secret confidence and a world he had quietly observed but never interfered with. He had no idea what was coming. Ethan leaned against the kitchen island, observing the details with methodical calm, noting the polished silver handle of the SUV door, the glint of sunlight off the marble countertops, the subtle shadows cast by the pendant lights above, everything registering with precise clarity. He did not react outwardly. Instead, he catalogued, analyzed, and began forming a mental map of the unfolding betrayal. The quiet hum of the dishwasher, the distant chirping of birds outside, and the faint sound of traffic all layered into the cinematic rhythm of the moment, heightening the suspense without breaking his composure. Many cliffhangers punctuated his thoughts: something is off, the timing doesn't make sense, why now? Each observation sharpened his awareness, every luxury detail from the expensive crystal wine glass on the dining table to the carefully arranged throw pillows on the living room sofa reinforcing the surreal contrast between his ordinary life and the extraordinary audacity of the situation. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, imagine standing in his shoes, feeling the weight of shock and betrayal while the morning sunlight glints off a marble island and the faint scent of expensive perfume lingers in the air. Ethan's mind moved like a camera panning across the scene, taking in the angle of shadows, the reflection of the SUV, the subtle cues in Monique's handwriting, each detail fueling the suspense. He allowed himself a slow, deliberate breath, cataloging every signal, every nuance, keeping his voice calm, his body still, while internally a storm of strategy began to form. Something felt wrong. Then he saw it again, the precise alignment of the envelope on the counter, the shadow cast by the pendant lights, the distant hum of the refrigerator. Everything changed after that moment. Ethan remained outwardly composed, but inside, his mind was already gathering evidence, tracking behavior, noting inconsistencies, and preparing for the reveal he knew would come. The city outside continued its rhythm, traffic passing, birds calling, sunlight warming the driveway, and yet the tension in the kitchen held, cinematic and immersive, each sensory detail intensifying the suspense and anticipation of what Ethan would do next. Ethan Carter sat at the kitchen island, hands wrapped around his black ceramic coffee mug, the warmth seeping through his fingers as he surveyed the room with calm scrutiny. The sunlight moved slowly across the polished marble countertops, highlighting the subtle veins of gray and gold, and the shadows of the pendant lights above stretched across the oak floor in long, deliberate lines. Outside, the faint sound of a distant lawn mower mixed with the gentle hum of the city waking up, birds chirping intermittently in the trees lining the driveway, their leaves glinting with morning dew. He noted the precise angle of the black SUV parked on the curb, its tinted windows reflecting the sunlight, an unspoken statement of luxury and status, yet his attention remained focused on the details he could control and observe. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the faint vanilla undertone of Monique's perfume, a contrast between comfort and tension that made his senses alert. Ethan opened his laptop, the keyboard cool under his fingers, and began reviewing his emails with deliberate attention, each message logged, each thread catalogued, yet his mind kept returning to the envelope on the counter and the photograph tucked within. He noted how the folds in the paper suggested careful handling, how the pressure of the handwriting conveyed intent and certainty. Then his gaze shifted to the living room, where sunlight glinted off the crystal wine glasses arranged neatly on the marble coffee table, a subtle reminder of the life Monique curated around her perceived power. Ethan allowed himself a slow, measured breath, absorbing the quiet symphony of sounds, the interplay of light and shadow, the hum of the refrigerator, and the occasional creak of the floorboards as he moved. He began a mental inventory of the house, the pristine condition of the oak cabinetry, the faint reflection of the pendant lighting on the stainless steel appliances, the texture of the woven rug under his feet, the subtle flicker of sunlight across the framed photographs that documented years of shared experiences. Something felt wrong. He made note of the timing of the morning routine, the way Monique's absence contrasted with the expected sequence, each inconsistency building a silent narrative that he observed with patience and precision. Ethan checked the blinds, noting the angle of light on the polished countertops, and the way shadows shifted across the room as the sun rose higher, giving him new perspectives on the environment and clues hidden in plain sight. Then he noticed the small stack of mail, perfectly aligned, each envelope a potential data point, and the subtle indentation of a seal that suggested it had been handled carefully, deliberately, with intent. He moved with quiet deliberation through the kitchen, opening drawers and cabinets without touching anything unnecessary, allowing his observations to form a coherent map of the space, the timing, and the latent actions that had occurred. Many cliffhangers threaded through his awareness. The timing is off, there is more here than meets the eye, every detail matters. Ethan catalogued each cue, from the gleam of the polished countertops to the soft hum of the dishwasher, the faint scent of polished wood mingling with coffee, creating a cinematic layering that made the ordinary environment feel charged with significance. He allowed his eyes to linger on the curve of the marble island, the reflection of the morning sun on the black leather of his office chair, the angle of the glassware catching light, all while forming a silent strategy in his mind. The coffee mug warmed his hands, a grounding presence in the midst of the subtle tension, and he noted the tactile sensation of the ceramic, the weight and balance, as he prepared mentally for the careful steps ahead. Something in the room seemed to breathe with him, the house alive with subtle cues that spoke volumes, the polished floors, the scent of coffee, the muted light from the windows, the faint reflections in the stainless steel appliances. Ethan catalogued everything without reacting outwardly, the foundation of his composure built on years of careful observation and quiet patience. Then he paused, noticing the way the shadows had shifted slightly, how the sunlight now illuminated an angle of the envelope he had not seen before. Something else had changed. Then he realized that the moment had opened a new layer of awareness, a silent alert that required focus, reflection, and continued observation. Every element of the space, from the subtle glint of light on the marble to the arrangement of the crystal glasses, became data points in his mental map. He remained calm, hands steady on the coffee mug, breath measured, cataloging, observing, preparing for the actions he would take next, while the ambient sounds of the morning city, the faint hum of the refrigerator, and the filtered sunlight created a cinematic atmosphere of quiet intensity. Many cliffhangers threaded through the narrative of his observations. He had no idea what would come next. Everything changed after this subtle detail, the ordinary held hidden truths waiting to be revealed. Each breath, each glance, each subtle shift in the environment deepened his awareness, forming a rich, immersive backdrop for the suspense that had quietly taken hold. Ethan Carter moved deliberately from the kitchen to his home office, the polished oak floors creaking softly under his measured steps, the morning light filtering through the blinds and casting long, angular shadows across the space. Each movement was purposeful, as though the room itself acknowledged his silent authority, the precision in his actions reinforcing a quiet tension that hung in the air. He observed the black leather chair in front of the mahogany desk, the subtle reflection of the pendant lights on the sleek surface, and the slight glint of sunlight on the polished silver hardware of his laptop, each detail catalogued meticulously in his mind. The faint hum of the refrigerator, the occasional distant car passing on the street, and the rustle of leaves in the early breeze formed a soft, ambient soundtrack to the room, yet nothing in that tranquility diminished the heightened alertness coursing through him. Ethan opened the laptop and began reviewing the financial statements, contracts, and correspondence with deliberate care, his eyes scanning for irregularities or clues, his mind piecing together the narrative that the morning's discovery had initiated. Something felt off. He noticed the subtle misalignment of invoices, a transaction that had occurred without prior notice, and a small note left carelessly in a folder that did not match the precision of Monique's usual methodical habits. Then he saw the timestamps, the sequence of emails, and the anomalies that hinted at hidden maneuvers, a silent orchestration of events that had gone unnoticed until now. He remained outwardly calm, hands resting lightly on the keyboard, breath measured, yet internally, his mind raced through layers of observation and analysis, noting every incongruity, every shift in pattern, every minor discrepancy that could reveal the larger truth. The ambient light from the floor-to-ceiling windows illuminated the office with a soft, golden glow, bouncing off the marble countertop in the adjacent kitchen, and reflecting faintly on the glass of a half-full crystal water tumbler beside the laptop, each reflection a subtle cue, a cinematic detail that enhanced the immersive atmosphere. Ethan's attention shifted to the environment, the faint aroma of fresh coffee lingering in the air, the subtle scent of polished wood from the cabinetry, and the distant sound of a lawn sprinkler creating a rhythmic, almost meditative backdrop to his analytical focus. He noted the placement of Monique's designer stationery on the sideboard, the pristine condition of the leather-bound notebook stacked neatly on the shelf, and the glint of light on the edge of a polished pen, all minute details forming a composite image of order and control, a contrast to the unfolding disruption. Many cliffhangers threaded through his perception. Something is not right here. Why now, after all this time? What had been hidden so carefully is beginning to surface. Ethan catalogued the black SUV again, now a small glint visible through the side window, its polished finish catching the light, a silent harbinger of status and presence, yet he remained composed, eyes tracing the shadows and lines of the room, forming a complete mental map of the scene and all its variables. Each sound, each reflection, each subtle movement of light contributed to a cinematic layering that heightened the suspense, reinforcing the stakes without breaking the calm exterior he projected. He began noting patterns, inconsistencies, and possible connections, silently recording, comparing, and projecting, while the ordinary environment, marble surfaces, polished wood, crystal glassware, filtered sunlight, remained alive with cinematic tension, creating a sense of anticipation and imminent revelation. Ethan's internal monologue navigated the minute details, the sequences of events, the alignment of objects, the subtle cues of behavior and timing, all forming a layered, immersive understanding of the unfolding situation. Then, a slight shift in the sunlight revealed a corner of an envelope he had not seen before, catching the light and drawing his gaze, a subtle detail that hinted at further information hidden in plain sight. He took a slow breath, allowed his mind to catalogue the revelation without rush, maintaining composure, integrating the new observation into his growing strategic assessment. Many cliffhangers continued to punctuate his awareness. Another clue had emerged, the ordinary surface concealed a truth waiting to be uncovered, everything was connected, and he was beginning to see the full pattern. Ethan remained motionless, poised, analytical, absorbing the cinematic details around him, the soft hum of the air conditioning, the filtered sunlight across the marble, the glint of a crystal water glass, the subtle shadows cast by the pendant lighting, all forming a rich, immersive backdrop to the emotional and observational suspense that continued to build. Ethan Carter carefully placed the crystal water glass back on the marble countertop, its weight and balance reassuring in his hands, and he glanced toward the home office where the sunlight now stretched in golden beams across the polished oak floors. The room held an uncanny stillness, each object in its place, the air tinged with the faint aroma of coffee and the subtle vanilla of Monique's lingering perfume, the combination sharp enough to keep his senses alert. He walked slowly toward the windows, observing the black SUV parked outside, the gloss of its paint catching the morning light, a silent symbol of presence and confidence, yet he remained unmoved outwardly, cataloging every detail with methodical precision. His mind traced back through the sequence of morning events, each small anomaly building a silent narrative of control, timing, and intent. He noticed the way the sunlight caught the edges of the envelope he had seen earlier, the way the marble reflected the light differently across the kitchen island, the slight tilt of the framed photographs on the sideboard, all contributing to the subtle cues that something significant had been set into motion. Ethan sat down at the edge of the leather chair, hands folded over the mug of coffee still warm in his grip, and began methodically listing every deviation from normal, the unusual pattern of Monique's emails, the unexpected timing of her absences, the faint reflection of an unfamiliar key card on the window sill, each element meticulously recorded in his mind. Many cliffhangers punctuated his focus. The pieces do not add up, something is being hidden, the ordinary is concealing more than it seems. He moved through the house with measured steps, observing the polished surfaces, the gleam of sunlight on the crystal wine glasses, the subtle angle of shadows cast by the pendant lights above, and the soft hum of the refrigerator that underscored the quiet suspense of the environment. Ethan opened a drawer and noted the alignment of letters and envelopes, the slight indentation on a sealed envelope hinting at previous handling, yet he touched nothing he did not need to. Each detail formed a layered mosaic of observation, from the soft texture of the marble countertops to the muted reflection on the black leather of the office chair, all forming a cinematic backdrop for the internal calculations that moved relentlessly forward. He catalogued the minor incongruities, the misaligned papers, the subtle glint of light on the corner of a folder, the faint shift in shadows as the sun climbed higher, and integrated them into a growing mental map of events, motives, and hidden intentions. Something felt increasingly off. Ethan sipped the coffee slowly, the warmth grounding him while his mind constructed a careful framework for understanding what had been orchestrated in silence. He allowed his gaze to linger on the sunlight hitting the kitchen tiles, the soft reflection on the crystal glass, the polished edge of the marble island, all while mentally tracing the actions and intentions of Monique, connecting the patterns, predicting her next moves. The house itself seemed alive with subtle cues, the slight hum of electricity in the appliances, the quiet rustle of leaves in the early morning breeze, the distant sound of traffic, each reinforcing the tension without any outward disturbance. Many cliffhangers threaded naturally through his awareness. What is she not telling me? Which details have been arranged to mislead? Everything is a signal, if I only pay attention. Ethan remained composed, cataloging, observing, noting every environmental cue, every subtle motion of light, every reflection across polished surfaces, while silently preparing for the methodical steps he would take next, the cinematic tension of the morning building toward a quiet but inevitable revelation that would change the balance of control. Ethan Carter sat back in his chair, eyes tracing the sunbeams as they moved across the office floor, each ray illuminating a detail he had previously overlooked, the precise alignment of the envelopes on the sideboard, the subtle indentation on a single corner suggesting it had been handled multiple times, and the faint reflection of light on the polished edge of his marble countertop. He allowed himself a slow, controlled breath, cataloging each nuance, noting the spacing between objects, the angle of shadows cast by the morning sun, and the soft hum of the air conditioning as it circulated through the room, reinforcing the quiet yet tense atmosphere. Something felt inconsistent. He turned toward his desk, scanning the files stacked neatly in a vertical organizer, their labels precise, methodical, yet one folder slightly out of alignment caught his attention. He opened it carefully, revealing a series of documents that hinted at hidden transfers, unexplained charges, and a few notations that did not match the pattern of Monique's meticulous record-keeping. Then he noticed the timestamp on a printed email, the unusual hour and date indicating that something had been orchestrated behind the scenes while he maintained his routine. Many cliffhangers threaded through his thoughts. Why now? What am I missing? Every detail has a purpose. Ethan made mental notes, cross-referencing the documents with what he had observed earlier, the angle of the envelope, the placement of the crystal glass, the sunlight on the marble, and the subtle glint of the black SUV parked outside. Each observation layered into a growing map of irregularities and potential motives, forming a silent narrative of strategy and oversight. He rose and moved toward the window, fingers lightly brushing the smooth marble sill, eyes narrowing as he analyzed the reflection in the tinted glass of the SUV, noticing the slight movement inside and how it corresponded with the arrival of other vehicles in the driveway over the previous days. The sunlight flickered across the surface of the desk, catching the edges of the legal pad he had left open, the clean handwriting a stark contrast to the irregularities he was now mapping. Ethan catalogued the subtle cues, the faint smell of polished wood from the cabinetry, the soft texture of the leather-bound notebook on the desk, and the rhythmic sound of a clock ticking on the wall, each adding to the cinematic atmosphere while reinforcing his focus on the discrepancies. He methodically traced the sequence of events, mentally noting the sequence of Monique's calls, her absences, and the subtle shift in her daily schedule, creating a pattern that indicated deliberate planning. Then he paused, eyes fixed on a small detail he had not noticed before, the reflection of sunlight on a corner of the envelope that revealed a hint of an unseen mark, a symbol or code that had been left intentionally. Ethan catalogued it without reaction, maintaining composure, and integrated it into his growing understanding of the underlying situation. Many cliffhangers continued to punctuate the scene, a hidden signal, an unnoticed detail, everything connects. He allowed his gaze to sweep the room, noting the interplay of light and shadow on the crystal glasses, the polished marble, the oak floors, the reflections on the stainless steel appliances, each element forming a rich, immersive backdrop that reinforced the suspense. Ethan's mind worked in layers, observing, connecting, analyzing, and projecting, each new detail contributing to a strategic map that would guide his next steps while the cinematic tension of the morning environment continued to build. He remained outwardly calm, yet every fiber of his attention was engaged, cataloging the subtle irregularities and hidden signals that would ultimately reveal the truth, each observation carefully stored, waiting for the precise moment when the narrative would shift in his favor. Ethan Carter leaned back in his chair, the sunlight now stronger across the polished marble island and the oak floors, reflecting off the crystal water glasses arranged neatly beside the laptop. He focused on the emails, bank statements, and correspondence displayed on the screen, each line of text a clue, each subtle discrepancy hinting at hidden movements. The faint hum of the air conditioning, the distant traffic, and the soft chirping of birds outside blended with the ambient light to create a serene cinematic backdrop, yet tension lingered in the space between the lines of his observations. Ethan began tracing the flow of money and assets, following transfers that had been executed quietly over the past months, noting the timestamps, the subtle changes in account balances, and the unfamiliar entries that suggested activity beyond the ordinary. Many cliffhangers punctuated his awareness. Why were these amounts moved now? What had been hidden from him? Every detail mattered. He catalogued everything in his mind, mentally creating a map of Monique's actions and the hidden structures beneath the surface. The reflection of sunlight on the marble emphasized the faint shadows cast by the crystal glasses, each subtle angle reinforcing his perception of hidden layers. He noted the faint scent of polished wood mingling with coffee, the texture of the leather chair beneath him, the soft ambient glow from the pendant lights above, each sensory detail contributing to the cinematic immersion while he processed the numerical and behavioral data. Ethan carefully opened a ledger that had been left partially hidden in the office drawer, scanning the handwritten notes, the subtle differences in ink, and the order of entries, identifying inconsistencies that painted a clear picture of unseen transfers, financial maneuvers, and possibly misrepresented intentions. The black SUV outside caught the sunlight at just the right angle to produce a glint that drew his eye, a symbol of power and confidence, yet he remained composed, cataloging the visual cues without reaction. He cross-referenced the documents with previous observations, the timing of Monique's departures, the sequence of incoming mail, the subtle cues in her handwriting, and the slight misalignment of certain envelopes on the countertop. The sequence formed a silent narrative, and he absorbed it fully, recognizing patterns that would have been invisible to an inattentive observer. Ethan allowed his gaze to wander around the office once more, the sheen on the marble countertop, the polished oak of the desk, the precise arrangement of stationery, the reflection of sunlight on crystal glassware, and the muted shadows from the pendant lighting. Each element became part of the complex puzzle he was mapping mentally. Many cliffhangers threaded naturally through his perception, another discrepancy, a clue in plain sight, everything was connected, waiting to reveal itself. He took a measured sip of coffee, feeling the warmth stabilize his focus while his mind continued to process the emerging patterns. The distant hum of city life, the filtered morning sunlight, and the subtle ambient sounds of the house all created a cinematic layer that heightened the tension and suspense without interrupting his composed exterior. Ethan cataloged the financial irregularities, the behavioral cues, and the environmental details with meticulous care, forming a comprehensive understanding of the hidden network that had been operating quietly around him. Every reflection, every shadow, every slight inconsistency in handwriting or document placement became part of the mosaic that informed his strategy. He remained calm, deliberate, and fully observant, silently preparing for the next steps in uncovering and activating the hidden potential and assets that Monique had not accounted for, the cinematic tension building with each passing moment in the sunlit, meticulously arranged office. Ethan Carter picked up his phone and dialed the number he had memorized years ago, the one belonging to a trusted lawyer who had handled complex cases with precision and discretion. The soft ring echoed through the sunlit office, blending with the hum of the air conditioning and the distant traffic outside, and he noted each minor vibration of the phone on the polished marble desk. When the call was answered, he spoke in a calm, measured tone, outlining the situation with clear, deliberate phrasing, providing only the necessary facts while keeping his composure unbroken. He shared the sequence of anomalies, the unexpected transfers, the subtle cues that indicated a pattern of deliberate concealment, and his observations of Monique's recent behavior, each detail carefully selected to convey the seriousness without revealing his own strategic position. Many cliffhangers threaded through his internal awareness. What will they uncover? Which details will confirm the hidden truth? Every observation has a purpose. Ethan reviewed scanned documents on his laptop, forwarding selected files to the lawyer, noting the timestamps, the small notations, the alignment of signatures, and the subtle inconsistencies in handwriting, each forming part of a mosaic that revealed the broader narrative. The sunlight shifted slightly across the room, catching the edges of crystal glassware and casting soft reflections onto the marble surface, the light acting as both illumination and cinematic accent to the unfolding investigation. The faint scent of polished wood and coffee lingered, mingling with the ambient sounds of the house, providing a stable backdrop as Ethan methodically worked through the financial anomalies, cross-referencing with behavioral observations and environmental cues. He instructed the lawyer on priority areas for analysis, unusual transfers, hidden accounts, discrepancies in bills, and patterns in Monique's communication, each instruction precise and carefully modulated, reinforcing his position as the calm center of the situation. Many cliffhangers threaded naturally. Which clue will be decisive? How far does the concealment go? The answers are hidden, but visible to those who observe carefully. Ethan noted the interplay of sunlight and shadow on the marble countertops, the glint of light on polished oak, the subtle reflections on stainless steel appliances, and the soft flutter of papers in the gentle breeze through the open window, each detail contributing to a cinematic layering of suspense. He moved through the office, cataloging the positions of each document, the subtle misalignments in folders, the texture of the leather chair, the small creases in the papers that suggested repeated handling, integrating them into a detailed mental map of actions, motives, and hidden structures. As he spoke to the lawyer, he noted the gentle reflection of sunlight on the black SUV parked outside, its polished surface catching light at intervals, a silent signal of presence, yet he remained composed, allowing the professional to guide the investigation while he observed. Ethan's attention expanded to minor details, the alignment of stationery, the faint sheen on the marble surface, the soft echo of his own voice through the room, each contributing to his understanding of the environment and the hidden maneuvers within it. Many cliffhangers punctuated each thought, every detail matters, the hidden network is revealing itself, observations today will define the next steps. He catalogued and observed in silence, integrating every cue, every reflection, and every anomaly into a coherent understanding, creating a comprehensive foundation for the unfolding strategy that would leverage his hidden assets, his calm presence, and the meticulous preparation of a trusted ally, all while the cinematic tension of the sunlit, meticulously arranged office continued to build toward the coming revelations. Ethan Carter sat back in the leather chair of his home office, letting his eyes drift over the polished oak desk and the meticulous alignment of documents he had spread before him. The morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, glinting off the crystal glasses on the sideboard and casting long shadows that moved slowly across the marble island in the adjacent kitchen. The subtle hum of the air conditioning mingled with the faint rustle of leaves outside and the distant traffic, forming a serene yet suspenseful soundtrack as he traced each line of financial data with careful attention. He noted the discrepancies he had discovered, the unusual transfers, the misaligned invoices, and the subtle markings on the envelopes, and began organizing them into a coherent map of hidden assets and concealed resources, each observation feeding into a larger mental framework. Many cliffhangers threaded through his mind. What else has been concealed? How much has gone unnoticed? Every detail matters. He opened a secure folder on his laptop, revealing a series of accounts, properties, and investments that had been quietly accumulating value over the years, all hidden beneath the surface of the ordinary life he had led. The glint of sunlight on the polished marble reminded him of the tangible reality of these assets, each one a testament to his foresight, patience, and discipline. Ethan allowed his gaze to wander across the room, the precise alignment of stationery on the oak desk, the soft reflection of sunlight on the stainless steel appliances in the kitchen, the sheen on the marble countertop, and the subtle flicker of light on the crystal glasses, all forming a cinematic backdrop to the mental map he was constructing. He catalogued the financial structures, noting properties, offshore accounts, and liquid assets, integrating them with the behavioral patterns he had observed from Monique over the previous weeks. Each movement, each light reflection, each environmental cue became data points in his strategic assessment. Many cliffhangers threaded naturally. Which asset will be decisive? How can the hidden leverage be activated? Every observation builds the next move. Ethan's hands rested lightly on the keyboard as he began outlining the activation of these resources, noting timing, sequence, and potential psychological impact while maintaining complete outward calm. The black SUV outside caught the morning light at an angle that highlighted its polished finish, a silent emblem of status that contrasted with the stillness and order of his office, yet he remained composed, noting every glint, every shadow, every detail without reacting impulsively. He reviewed contracts, investment statements, and property deeds, each piece fitting into the larger puzzle that he had methodically pieced together over hours of observation, creating a comprehensive map of hidden potential and latent power. The subtle scent of polished wood and coffee remained in the air, blending with the filtered sunlight, creating a cinematic environment that heightened awareness while reinforcing his composure. Many cliffhangers threaded through the scene, the timing is perfect, the hidden resources are ready, everything is poised for revelation. Ethan catalogued each cue, the alignment of the envelopes, the reflections on crystal glassware, the polished marble, the shadows cast by the pendant lights, and the subtle sounds of the morning, all forming a multi-layered sensory map that he used to prepare for the next stage of action. Each observation was deliberate, every calculation precise, and his internal strategy unfolded in layers, integrating behavioral cues, environmental details, and financial leverage into a cohesive plan. The cinematic tension built as Ethan's mind worked in tandem with the environment, the glint of sunlight on the marble, the shadows of the oak desk, the hum of the air conditioning, the reflections on glassware, all reinforcing the silent activation of his hidden competence, poised and ready to shift the balance in his favor. Ethan Carter rose from his chair, the morning sunlight spilling across the polished marble countertops and reflecting off the crystal glasses, casting elongated, shifting patterns across the oak floors. The black SUV remained visible through the office window, its polished surface catching the light at precise angles, a silent emblem of power that had been underappreciated until now. He moved with deliberate calm, opening the ledger of accounts, contracts, and property deeds that had been quietly amassed over the years, each document a testament to his foresight and diligence. Many cliffhangers threaded through his awareness. Which element will tip the balance? How will hidden truths emerge? Everything converges at the right moment. Ethan reviewed the sequences, noting the flow of funds, the timing of transfers, and subtle anomalies that had escaped initial scrutiny, cataloging them into a coherent mental framework. He allowed his gaze to drift over the office environment, sunlight glinting on marble edges, shadows stretching across the polished wood, reflections on crystal glassware, the faint scent of coffee and polished wood mingling in the air, and the soft hum of the air conditioning providing a rhythmic backdrop to his thoughts. Each sensory detail formed a cinematic layer that heightened suspense and reinforced the gravity of the situation. Ethan methodically organized evidence of hidden assets, aligning bank statements with property records and investment accounts, and cross-referencing with behavioral observations of Monique's recent actions, creating a complete map of leverage and opportunity. Many cliffhangers punctuated the flow. What has been overlooked? Which discovery will have the greatest impact? The ordinary conceals the extraordinary. He examined the subtle shifts in light and shadow across the room, noting how the sunlight illuminated edges of envelopes, crystal surfaces, and polished wood, providing visual cues that reinforced the unfolding strategy. Ethan moved to the window, observing the driveway and noting the reflection of the sun on the black SUV once more, the quiet presence outside serving as a reminder of control and observation. He sipped his coffee slowly, allowing the warmth to steady his focus while mentally sequencing the activation of hidden resources, considering timing, public perception, and psychological impact. Many cliffhangers threaded seamlessly, everything hinges on timing, the hidden is about to surface, all pieces must align. Ethan cataloged each environmental cue, behavioral detail, and financial anomaly, integrating them into a cohesive strategy that balanced precision, patience, and silent authority. The soft ambient sounds of the house, the hum of the refrigerator, faint rustle of leaves, distant traffic, combined with the filtered sunlight across the marble and oak floors to create an immersive cinematic atmosphere that underscored his composed yet highly aware state. Each observation, each reflection, each subtle irregularity was noted and stored mentally, forming a layered map of opportunity and leverage that would be activated at the precise moment to shift the balance decisively. Ethan maintained his composure, outwardly calm, while internally orchestrating the sequence that would reveal the full scope of his hidden competence, assets, and preparation, the cinematic tension building steadily as the morning progressed toward the moment of revelation. Ethan Carter watched from the window as the morning unfolded, the sunlight striking the polished marble of the driveway and reflecting off the black SUV parked just beyond the front gate. The vehicle sat motionless, a silent statement of presence and confidence, yet it had not yet drawn his attention outwardly. His focus remained methodical, cataloging every detail in the immediate environment. Many cliffhangers threaded through his perception. She believes I am defeated, every assumption she makes is based on misperception, the moment is approaching. He sipped slowly from his black ceramic coffee mug, the warmth grounding him as his mind continued to work through the sequence of events and hidden resources at his disposal. Ethan traced the flow of funds and assets once more, mentally visualizing the timing of their activation and the optimal moment to reveal the depth of his preparation. The sunlight shifted across the oak floors, glinting off the crystal glasses on the sideboard, the reflection stretching across the polished surfaces and forming a cinematic layer that heightened awareness while maintaining composure. He noted the subtle alignment of envelopes, the polished edges of the marble island, the soft hum of the air conditioning, and the faint scent of coffee lingering in the room, each contributing to the sensory map of observation and preparation. Many cliffhangers punctuated the awareness. Her confidence is a signal, she is overestimating the advantage she believes she holds, all will change when the hidden is revealed. Ethan allowed his gaze to move across the office, the sleek lines of the leather-bound notebooks, the polished wood of the desk, the glint of sunlight on a stainless steel pen, the faint shadows cast by the pendant lights above, each detail catalogued as part of the larger puzzle. He reviewed the sequences of Monique's recent actions, noting the timing of absences, the subtle misalignment of personal items, the minor variations in her routine, integrating them with the financial and strategic map he had constructed over the morning. The cinematic tension built as Ethan remained outwardly calm, hands resting lightly on the marble island, eyes tracing the interplay of light and shadow, reflections on glassware, and subtle cues from the SUV outside. Many cliffhangers threaded naturally. The hidden advantage is ready, she has no idea what has been prepared, the ordinary conceals extraordinary power. He catalogued the spatial and temporal cues, the sunlight shifting across the floors, the reflections on polished surfaces, the distant city sounds, while simultaneously reviewing the activation plan for his assets and strategy, each layer reinforcing the suspense. Ethan traced the sequence in his mind, the alignment of financial instruments, timing of strategic moves, public and private perception, and the psychological impact of revelation, all while maintaining an exterior of patience and calm. The ambient environment, the hum of appliances, filtered sunlight, the reflection of shadows, provided a cinematic framework for the tension, each detail observed and stored for precise deployment. Many cliffhangers punctuated the strategic analysis, all pieces are in position, her overconfidence will be exposed, the silent shift is about to occur. Ethan allowed himself a controlled breath, letting the warmth of the coffee and the grounded presence of the marble, oak, and crystal guide his calm exterior, while internally, every layer of observation, behavioral cue, and hidden asset was ready to be activated to shift the balance decisively in his favor. Ethan Carter finally leaned forward, fingers hovering above the polished marble countertop as he initiated the first step of revealing the hidden truths he had meticulously catalogued over weeks of observation and preparation. The sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, glinting off the crystal glasses and the edge of the marble island, highlighting the care with which everything in the room had been arranged and offering cinematic depth to the moment. Many cliffhangers threaded through his thoughts. The timing is exact, she has no idea what is coming, every move has been planned. He began opening documents on his laptop, sending selected files to the lawyer and trusted associates, detailing the previously concealed transfers, hidden accounts, and property holdings, each one layered with precision and deliberately chosen to maximize impact. The faint hum of the air conditioning, the distant traffic, and the rustle of leaves in the morning breeze added a subtle, immersive soundtrack that made the stillness of the office feel charged with anticipation. Ethan traced the sequences again, mentally visualizing how each revelation would unfold and how it would intersect with Monique's assumptions about his situation. Sunlight bounced off the polished oak desk and crystal glassware, casting patterns across the marble floor that seemed to mark the path of the unfolding strategy. Many cliffhangers appeared naturally. Which reaction will be the first? Which layer will reveal itself most dramatically? Everything is about to converge. He checked the alignment of envelopes, the subtle angles of papers, and the reflection on the black leather chair, noting how the environment itself contributed to the cinematic tension and reinforced the authority of the impending reveal. Ethan began methodically coordinating with the lawyer, timing each disclosure, and confirming that every hidden asset, account, and document would be presented with precision to ensure clarity and undeniable impact. The faint scent of coffee and polished wood mingled with filtered sunlight across the room, heightening awareness while maintaining composure. Each document, each reflection, each glint of light on crystal and marble became part of the cinematic framing, forming a sensory-rich environment that elevated suspense. Many cliffhangers threaded through his actions. The concealed is about to surface, she has underestimated every detail, every prepared element aligns perfectly. Ethan moved deliberately, confirming access to each hidden account, the sequence of notifications, and the presentation of evidence, ensuring the timing of each reveal aligned with the visual and psychological impact he had envisioned. Sunlight reflected on the marble and the crystal glasses, the shadows from the pendant light stretched across the polished oak, and the faint hum of electronics blended with the ambient sounds to create an immersive cinematic tableau. Ethan catalogued every nuance, the subtle reflections, the arrangement of the office, the polished surfaces, the minor shifts in light and shadow, each contributing to a layered, strategic presentation. Many cliffhangers punctuated his awareness. The moment is almost upon her, every hidden truth will be undeniable, the balance of perception is about to shift. He remained outwardly calm, sipping slowly from the black ceramic coffee mug, allowing the warmth and the grounded tactile sensation of the marble and wood to stabilize him while internally orchestrating the exposure of all hidden assets, meticulously timed and designed to maximize both clarity and impact, the cinematic tension building steadily toward the climactic unfolding of truth. Ethan Carter watched quietly as the sequence of revelations unfolded, each document, each financial statement, and each hidden asset now illuminated for Monique to see, the sunlight glinting across the polished marble countertops and reflecting off the crystal glasses in a way that made the room shimmer with clarity. Many cliffhangers threaded through his awareness. Her understanding is about to shift, every assumption she has made will be challenged, the truth will become undeniable. Monique's expressions changed subtly, her confidence faltering as the evidence laid bare the depth of what Ethan had been quietly managing and preserving over the years. He catalogued each micro-reaction, the way her eyes lingered on a particular document, the slight pause in her breathing, the way the reflection of sunlight on the marble caught her attention, all providing additional insight into the impact of the revelation. The ambient sounds of the office, the faint hum of the air conditioning, the rustle of papers, the distant traffic outside, mixed with the filtered morning light to create a cinematic frame for the moment, each detail reinforcing the emotional weight of discovery. Ethan remained composed, outwardly calm, sipping his coffee slowly, hands steady on the polished oak desk while internally, every observation was recorded, every cue processed, and every strategic advantage noted. Many cliffhangers punctuated the scene naturally. She had misjudged the extent, her perception is unraveling, everything she thought she knew has changed. He traced the sunlight as it moved across the crystal glasses, the polished marble, and the oak floor, noting the way shadows shifted across the room, marking the passage of time and reinforcing the weight of each revelation. Each legal document, bank statement, and ledger page was presented with precision, highlighting the hidden transfers, previously unseen accounts, and carefully accumulated assets, all aligned to demonstrate the full extent of Ethan's foresight and preparation. The subtle scent of coffee, polished wood, and filtered sunlight created a sensory layer that emphasized focus and control while the cinematic tension in the room escalated. Ethan's mind catalogued every reaction, the slight tightening of her hands on a glass, the shift in her posture, the quick glance toward the window where the black SUV gleamed in the morning light, each cue reinforcing the realization of misjudgment. Many cliffhangers continued, the magnitude is undeniable, her confidence wavers with each detail, the balance of power is shifting. He maintained outward calm, letting the environment, the reflections, the polished surfaces, the filtered sunlight, the subtle hum of the house, support the dramatic reveal while internally mapping the psychological impact, confirming that each layer of hidden competence and preparation had been observed and appreciated by the silent audience of one. Ethan allowed the moment to breathe, cataloging every subtle shift, every reflection, every micro-expression, creating a cinematic experience where the gravity of the hidden truth unfolded with precision, anticipation, and clarity, ensuring that the emotional collapse was complete and the misjudgment fully realized. Ethan Carter stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, the late morning sunlight spilling across the polished marble island and glinting off the crystal glasses arranged meticulously on the sideboard, each reflection catching the room in a cinematic glow. The black SUV outside remained parked at the edge of the driveway, its polished surface gleaming, a silent reminder of presence and preparation, yet Ethan felt an unspoken calm as he traced the subtle shadows stretching across the oak floors. Many cliffhangers threaded through his awareness, everything has aligned, the moment has shifted, the next phase begins. He allowed himself a slow, deliberate breath, feeling the warmth of the coffee mug in his hand and the smooth marble beneath his fingertips, a grounding presence as he began to orchestrate the rebuilding of his life with quiet precision. Each document he had prepared, each hidden asset, and each carefully timed revelation had done its work, and now the focus shifted to creating a new rhythm of control, balance, and dignity. Ethan moved through the home, noting the filtered sunlight on the polished surfaces, the soft hum of the air conditioning, and the faint reflection of glassware as he mentally mapped the next steps in rebuilding, integrating personal, professional, and financial domains into a coherent plan. Many cliffhangers punctuated his observation. What will this stability feel like? How will the patterns reshape themselves? Every choice now defines the trajectory. He reviewed the ledger of assets, cross-referenced with properties, investments, and previously concealed accounts, mentally rehearsing the allocation and activation of resources while maintaining composure, the cinematic tension replaced with a steady rhythm of control. The sunlight highlighted the subtle textures of the marble countertops, the polished oak floors, the glint on crystal, and the soft glow of pendant lights, each element contributing to an immersive sense of clarity and regained authority. Ethan noted the minor environmental cues, the angle of shadows, the sheen on polished surfaces, the filtered light through the blinds, allowing them to reinforce a sense of continuity and stability. Many cliffhangers continued, every element is in harmony, the past has been reconciled with preparation, the future is within grasp. He traced the reflections on the black leather chair, the crystal glasses, the stainless steel appliances, each detail reinforcing the layered strategy that had led to this moment, while integrating lessons from observation, patience, and precise execution. The faint scent of coffee and polished wood created a sensory backdrop as he catalogued the final checks, ensuring all accounts, documentation, and assets were aligned for optimal management and visibility. Ethan's gaze drifted across the sunlit driveway, the black SUV reflecting his sense of calm authority, each glint of light a subtle acknowledgement of preparation and foresight. Many cliffhangers threaded subtly, the equilibrium is established, the hidden competence is recognized, every layer of preparation has contributed to this moment of quiet victory. He allowed the cinematic environment, the filtered sunlight, polished surfaces, reflections on glassware, and subtle ambient sounds, to reinforce the sense of peaceful authority and controlled mastery, completing the careful reconstruction of his life with dignity, strategic clarity, and an unshakable presence.